What is going on, everybody? We are back with our team reviews. We are on to the Miami Dolphins. It's Friday, August 11th. It's kind of the first big weekend of preseason football. And we had two games, I think, yesterday. And yeah, there was some interesting stuff. I think Tank Dell was the big guy that everyone's talking about this morning and the next day. Dad, did you happen to watch any preseason football?
Yeah, I watched a little bit, and Tank Dell was kind of being. I think he caught like 6 passes for a touchdown, so they were getting the ball to him. It looked like Stroud didn't really look that great, but but man, their third string quarterback. I mean, Davis Mills and then Case Keenum. Those guys are, throwing the ball down the field and stuff. So who knows what's going to happen?
Do you think that could be a problem for Stroud?
I don't know. I guess he looked like he was kind of lost a little bit. And then, they only give him a couple series and then you're out of there. And so, Davis Mills obviously had 2 years of starting and playing experience, and then Case Keenum's like an 11-year veteran. So it's like, wow, big difference, I thought, but
yeah,
they didn't even play Mac Jones.
I didn't actually watch the game. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
they
think I'm
didn't
on a
play
little bit
Mac
of a delay.
Jones. Yeah.
I think you're good. Yeah, they didn't play Mac Jones or Ramondre Stevenson. They're kind of keeping those guys safe, essentially saying these are our starters. Stroud, I'm not going to start panicking yet. I mean, he was also playing against probably a lot of first stringers on the Patriots defense, whereas those other guys probably weren't. So, and he didn't look great necessarily, but he played like 2 series and, notoriously New England's defense, Bill Belichick, are pretty notoriously he shut down rookie quarterbacks pretty well, except for Davis Mills 2 years ago. So, Brian, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say I didn't really watch it, but that's kind of what I read about Stroud in general. Like, he didn't play much, but the Patriots were kind of putting a lot of pressure on him, so maybe they just pulled him just to kind of protect him a little bit. And it's like, all right, like maybe try and give him a little bit of an easier start next week or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they normally don't play the starters. I mean, a lot of teams don't, like the Patriots don't play their starters at all. And if they do, you're only going to play a couple series. Like, that's just kind of how it goes in your first game. The second game is where you'll play a lot. So I don't really see. Yeah, just because they play Davis Mills a lot doesn't mean that's just kind of what you do in preseason. You play your starters very minimally the first game. So, but we got more games this weekend, which will be fun to watch. But anyways, we're gonna get into the Miami Dolphins team review. Gonna go over the depth chart here that I'll share with you in just a second. Approaching it from a redraft point of view, we play half PPR, so that's kind of what we look at it as well. But I mean, you can apply it to whatever settings that you use, and then we'll throw in regular football, some dynasty stuff every now and then. And we're just going to start with the quarterback position, and of course, it's Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback one for this Miami Dolphins team. Brian, I'll start off with you and just ask you what's Tua's ceiling in terms of where he finishes as a QB? And second follow-up question is, are you gonna have Tua on any of your redraft teams where he's currently being drafted as the QB 11 and 90th overall?
Yeah, so I think Tua's ceiling is, basically like just as good as like given like who his receivers are and everything, like, and what we saw, like, I think he could be just as good as, Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. I don't see why not, honestly. I know that it's like the health basically that everyone's kind of worried about. I think quarterback 11 it's good. Like I think the thing about Tua is like you're gonna either carry a second quarterback, maybe like a Kirk Cousins or like Aaron Rodgers or something, or Goff, or maybe you just stream depending on like how your league is. If you know, a lot of people keep two QBs, but I'm okay with waiting on Tua and really loading up on other things. And you know, I mean, you get it. I like the idea of getting Tyreek Hill and Tua together also. So, yeah, I mean, I'd take him there definitely. It comes with some risk, but who doesn't? You know, and I think it's good value on him for a guy with a lot of high ceiling.
Yeah. That kind of same questions. What do you think his ceiling is in terms of his quarterback finish? And then are you interested in taking him 90th overall, which is middle of the 8th round?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I seen enough last year, enough play last year with the two good wide receivers and stuff like that. I know there's injury concerns. I think they're gonna, I think they've tried to mitigate those things. Judo lessons or something like that. And I honestly think that stuff will kind of help. And there was a couple of those concussions. It didn't even look like he got hit that hard. He just kind of fell on a grass surface. But so there's some concern. I think Tua can put up decent numbers and be relevant fantasy wise. And 8th round draft pick, I think I'd go in on that.
Yeah, he's this is kind of the area where ideally I'd like to wait for quarterback until 7th, 8th round at the earliest. I know everyone has their own preferences and stuff like that, which is fine. This is kind of the range where I want to start thinking about it, and Tua's right there in that range. And again, he's QB 11, so you might even be able to like wait a round or two depending on if everyone else kind of has their quarterback besides one other team. Hopefully no one takes a backup in the first 10 picks, so maybe you can even stretch it out to like the 9th, 10th round. It's possible. You just got to know your league. So yeah, I mean, he's a guy I can see finishing top 5. Averaged 18.5 points last year in 4-point per passing touchdown. That was the same as Daniel Jones. 1 point less than Geno Smith. And that was with a game where at least one game where he left early. It might have been 2. Definitely week 4, he only got 3.5 points. So he definitely left early. So if you assume he plays his normal game there, he's probably closer to like what Kyler Murray was averaging and closer to like 19 points a game. So he has the weapons on this team. I guess important to note, the backup, Mike White, is there. If we're worried about Tua and injury concerns, you got to keep Mike White in your head, I guess, and especially in a super flex 2 QB league. But even in a 1 quarterback league, like he could come in and fill in for you at a bye week, or if your QB gets injured, if he does become the starter.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's maybe you don't have to worry about a second QB with Tua because this is non-super flex, obviously, but it's because you could probably just pick up Mike White on the waiver if he does get hurt, and you'll be okay for at least until you figure something else out. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and I totally trust this coaching staff and these offensive weapons to kind of like, yeah, Mike White will be a solid starter, So the running backs are where it's really interesting. You can see the depth chart here. It says Mostert number 1, Jeff Wilson number 2, Devon Achane as number 3. What's interesting, though, is Achane's actually, according to Fantasy Pros ADP, is the first Miami running back being drafted. I think they're them and Chicago are the only 2 backfields where no running backs being drafted in like the top 100 or top 110 maybe. Achane comes in at 114, so he's the first Miami running back off the board, which is round 10, middle of round 10. Mostert's actually next, 140th overall, so 26 picks later, 2 rounds later essentially. And then Jeff Wilson's even 2 rounds later than Mostert at 165th overall. I have my thoughts about this. Dad, I'll let you start. Is there one of these guys? Let's just maybe take ADP out of question here. Of these three guys, is there anyone that you prefer between the three?
Wow, it's kind of you kind of wonder, you know. I like the new guy. He's got speed. You know, he doesn't seem to be. Well, first off, the coach, you know, from San Francisco, he doesn't seem to overuse the running backs. You know, like feed them 20 carries a game. So they kind of between Mostert and Jeff Wilson, they seem to split carries pretty good, and you know, and so I don't know. I think all three of them are going to be in the mix, to tell you the truth. A-Chain obviously is very fast. He's not a big guy, so but I think he's going to have some. He's definitely going to have some touches, and you know, he has the ability of taking it to the house.
Do you like A-Chain out of the three?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think we always kind of like the new guy or something like that. We'll have to see, you know, after they cut down and stuff like that, if there's anybody left, or, you know, they say goodbye to one of those two guys, Mostert or Wilson, and just roll with the other two. But we'll see.
Yeah, probably not. I'll probably keep the three. It's going to be like a Myles Gaskin or Salvin Ahmed who's going to be leaving. Brian, kind of the same question. Is there anyone, but you know, kind of taking out ADP, any of these three you're kind of targeting in your draft? You're interested in the most, or?
I don't think so. Not especially. I mean, I'm fine with taking the shot on one of these guys as one of your later picks, but honestly, I don't know. I mean, we know the offense is going to run through the receivers and Tua, you know, but which I think that kind of makes sense why A-Chain is kind of like he fits like why he's the higher guy, because he kind of fits the profile of the team as the fast guy who can just catch something and then make a huge play out of it, you know, like just like we saw last year from Waddle and Tyreek. It's like, I remember they talked about them last year, the two receivers, as far as like, dude, are they drafting like a track team, like with all these guys? Like, what's going on here? Like, because they're fast. So I don't know. I'm not that interested, but I don't know. I can you tell me who else is going around, like where A-Chain's going?
Yeah, I'll let you know. And also, Mostert is really fast himself. I think he runs in the 4.3s, low 4.3s. Which is really, really fast. A-Chain's in the 4.2s. Guys going around A-Chain. Running backs are Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Jerick McKinnon, Tyler Algier is pretty far. Yeah, those guys. Also, Zach Charbonnet. So Zach Charbonnet, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Jerick McKinnon. So
yeah, I would take Charbonnet over him.
Yeah,
but I'm not interested in very many of those guys at all. So maybe a receiver, or maybe that's where you get your, if you waited on tight end, or you know, something like that. I don't know.
Even quarterback. I mean, the other guys going around him. You know, Geno Smith, Elijah Moore, Cortland Sutton, Jared Goff, Juju. So
I like all those receivers better.
Mm-hmm.
Those three: Juju, Sutton. Who was the first one? Oh, Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore, yeah.
Elijah Moore, yeah. I'd rather have any one of those three receivers over any of these running backs, honestly.
Yeah, I do agree. I think if you can, I think most, obviously not everyone can do this, but if you're listening to this, you should, them and Chicago, kind of treat them the same. Get one of those three guys, and just because any one of the three could hit, they basically have, like, in my opinion, almost like an equal chance in hitting. So it's like get one of them, because they're not super expensive. Even A-Chain, like, you know, 114th overall, like that's not going to kill you if he doesn't pan out, type of thing. So take one of them. The one thing I will say, in my opinions about this, so Jeff Wilson obviously was traded from San Francisco to Miami middle of the season. And from the first week that he was there, you think usually, okay, like give him a week, practice. He had the same exact amount of carries as Raheem Mostert. They both had 9. So from that week, and then the second week, he had like 17 to Mostert's 10. And then if you look at it throughout, I think they played 8 games together where they were both healthy. And Jeff Wilson had 71 carries, Mostert had 63. And that was 2 games in which Jeff Wilson had less than 35% snap share. So I don't know if he got hurt. He had one game of like 14%, so he hardly played in one of those games, and another one at like 33, which again, he hardly played. So kind of interesting to me. I think that's a little telling. And then they signed both these guys to contracts. Mostert was on the 19th of March. Jeff Wilson was on the 20th. Both got 2-year contracts. They paid Jeff Wilson like $500,000 more. So like, yeah, it's not a lot, but they paid him more money, you know? So like, I don't know. It makes me think I kind of like Jeff Wilson the most if you take into account the ADP as well. Of just, you can get him at very end, 14th, 15th round of your draft. So just something to think about there. A-Chain does throw a little bit of a wrench. I don't know about this ADP, how much it takes best ball into account. But I do think A-Chain's more of a better best ball play than these other 2 guys, which maybe is boosting his ADP up a bit. So any last words on the running backs, or you want to get to the receivers, which I think are pretty straightforward?
Yeah, move on, yeah.
I mean, there's not really much to talk about with the receivers. They're both really good. They're awesome. They proved that they can both survive in this offense. Tyreek Hill is currently being drafted, I think, as the wide receiver 3. Is that right? Maybe it's 4. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 4. That could change with the Cooper Kupp injury stuff. 7th overall. And then Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 11, 24th overall. Dad, fine with both these guys? Are you taking Tyreek Hill over like a Stephon Diggs, for example?
I think so. I mean, Hill will give you the big play every once in a while, and the over-the-top throw, deep throw. I really like Waddle a lot. I would. I'm assuming he's a second rounder type guy in a fantasy draft, and I wouldn't have a problem taking this guy as my team's wide receiver number 1 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can start your draft with McCaffrey and Waddle, very easily. Or if you want to double up,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, you can double up with, Jefferson or Kupp or Tyreek, or you don't want to do Tyreek and Waddle, but Jamar Chase and Waddle. So, yeah, I mean, they're both really good. Waddle's kind of had interesting. He was like a target hog his first year, and then last year he was more of what he was in college, where he was more of a field stretcher type of guy. Brian, any concerns with these guys? Tyreek Hill over Cooper Kupp, over Stephon Diggs?
I think I'd be happy with any one of those 3 guys. Like, I think Hill's going to get taken first. I'd rather have Cooper Kupp if it wasn't for the injury that's going through right now. But it's so close. It's like, I think Kupp's at the end of that list right now just because we don't know what's going on with the hamstring. Well, we do know, but it's a little concerning, the soft tissue stuff in the preseason. Waddle, I like him best at, like, I know he kind of goes around the other elite number 2 guys, Devontae Smith and T. Higgins. I'd rather have Waddle over those 2 guys. But again, that's close too. But I think he kind of goes around Chris Olave also, who I think I'd give the slight edge to Olave, but I can't. I mean, yeah, I'd be totally fine with these guys as my number 1, but like you guys kind of said, like, you could get him. He could be your number 2 pretty easily, and then you're just happy.
Yeah, it's looks like it's Garrett Wilson's like 20th. Amon-Ra St. Brown's 19th, Wilson's 20th, Waddle 24th, and then Devontae Smith 28th, and Olave 29th. So yeah, they're all kind of since you're picking at the turns, if you want Olave, you got to take him right there. You got to take him 24th, 25th.
Oh yeah. I mean, imagine if you picked number one and you got Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, and Chris Olave to start, like in a 3 receiver league, like that would be you're just like unstoppable at receiver at that point,
Yeah.
In an ideal world.
Definitely.
One thing I do want to mention real quick about Waddle, maybe you know more about this, Mike. Wasn't he not quite as good? Like Tyreek Hill was still good without Tua, but Waddle, it was noticeable, like a difference in his production without Tua. Can you speak on that better than what I just did?
Yeah, I have heard that. I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but I did hear that. I can kind of quickly look it up, but I did hear. No, that's fine. I did hear about like that was the case. I know Tua. So Tua missed weeks 5 and 6. Waddle had 23 yards, but then he had 129 yards. And then he missed 17, 18, and Waddle had 52 and 44 yards. So, yeah, I mean, the thing about, I think he was slightly worse without Tua, just because he wasn't a big catch guy. He only had 75 catches. So, I mean, he averaged 18 yards a catch. So that's like a big thing. Like, he really needed Tua there for that yardage stuff, get him the ball kind of deep. And they were starting like Skylar Thompson and stuff. It wasn't even like, now they have Mike White. So I'm, like you said, a little less concerned about if Tua does miss games for these guys. But yeah, something to keep something to keep in mind. And then I think it's the CBS guys that we listen to. They mentioned that when it comes to like a guy like Jamar Chase or Tyreek Hill, and now maybe Justin Jefferson, when there's a second receiver that's like a top 16, top 20 guy, there's never been the first receiver on that team has never finished like number 1 overall, so kind of caps their upside a little bit. Like they can still be second or third best receiver, but there's never the number 1 overall receiver has basically just been a target hog like Cooper Kupp. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, I'd keep Cooper. I'd take Cooper Kupp, but I did a draft where I had to make this decision. 6th overall, it was Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp, and I went Tyreek because it was August 8th or 9th or whatever, and I had no idea if Kupp was going to be ready for the season. So it kind of depends when you're drafting. Go ahead, Brian.
No. I think you summed it up pretty good.
Yeah. Not much else to talk about, really, like on the whole team. I mean, Cedric Wilson, kind of feel bad for the guy. He was relevant for like 10 days before Tyreek was traded to the Dolphins last year. River Craycraft is a cool name. I mean, the tight end. I mean, Durham Smythe, I think he fits the system, and that they come from that San Francisco system where they do a lot of crazy stuff with their tight ends. Just it's so important to the overall offense, but in terms of fantasy, it's probably not going to be anything. The only maybe keep an eye on like Elijah Higgins, who's a rookie. He's kind of like a wide receiver tight end hybrid, big guy. So
that's got to be like deep dynasty stuff, though. It's like you're not even picking any of these guys. It's like your tight end 3 in best ball. Like, so it's kind of just like the answer is no, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Waddle and Hill put up 3,000 yards between the two of them. It's just Any last words, Dad? Any predictions for the Dolphins? Can they win the division? Tough division, but can they win it? Bills, Jets, Patriots, Dolphins?
Yeah, they can win it. But it's going to be a dogfight, that's for sure. I mean, it's kind of hard to say who's got the better team. Everybody's kind of looking past the Bills a little bit, and to the Jets, and thinking the Jets' offensive line isn't going to be that good. It's going to be a problem, I think. But anyway, there's the Dolphins. Dolphins or Bills are probably going to win the AFC East, I think.
Yeah, the Dolphins gave the Bills a run for their money in the playoffs last year. If people remember that wild card game, I think it was
Yeah, they could have won it, as a matter of fact.
it was a big shootout, right? If I remember correctly. Like, I'm just looking back now, trying to see if I can find it. Yeah, the wild card, it was 34-31 Bills in Buffalo. So yeah, it was a shootout. Oh, by the way, that was without Tua. That was with Skylar Thompson at quarterback.
Right.
FYI. So
somebody made a boo-boo at the goal line or something, or somebody for the Dolphins. I think they had a chance to punch it in on a fourth down, and they didn't make it near the goal line, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so they have a good team, good coach, and this offense is going to roll once again, I think. So, Brian, any last words about the Dolphins?
No. I think we squared it all up. Get to late, take a late shot on one of those running backs. Fade the tight ends, and the two receivers are awesome.
Will you do? Would you ever think about doing? Because it is possible. Would you ever think about doing a triple stack of Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle?
I don't know. I've never really thought about that. Because there is a few of those teams. Well, yeah, this is probably one of the only teams that you can actually get those couple of guys, because you're not getting
two high end guys. Yeah, for sure.
Right, because you're not getting Hurts with the two receivers. You're not getting. Well, I guess you could get Burrow with the two receivers. Also, you'd have to take them early, probably though. But
how they're being drafted, I think Burrow and Higgins are both third rounders right now, but it's possible. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you'd have to go early on one of those guys. Like, you'd have to get one in the second round, and most likely Higgins, and then get Burrow in the third round, which is, I'm not doing that. I don't know. I think putting all your eggs in one basket's a pretty risky proposition. So no, I don't think I would.
I mean, if they do what they did last year, without the Tua injury, yeah, you'll probably lose a couple weeks automatically, but you'll probably win a lot too. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but we'll finish up there. We're going to be back with the Minnesota Vikings, another interesting team, I think. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you guys